This conference will now be recorded.
All right. So anyway, what I would like to begin with this evening is to just I'm going to do a quick rehearsal of the points that we covered over the past couple of weeks, and then after that, I'm going to ask if there is any question that anybody has arising from those points. If there are no questions, I will proceed, and if there are questions, we will focus on the questions. Now, what we said so far is that the beast of Revelation 13, the first beast that comes up out of the sea with the 7 heads and 10 horns, is the same beast in Revelation 17. And that the evidence in Revelation 17 suggests that this beast cannot be a combination of the Roman Catholic Church. It cannot be the papacy. And the reason why we say this is because we see that the beast, the 10 horns on the beast, which are a part of the beast, an extension of the beast, they will hate the woman here riding the beast, which we understand to involve the Roman Catholic Church. It involves the Catholic Church, this woman. The 10 horns will hate the whore, make her naked, eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. So because of this, we conclude that the woman and the beast cannot be in any way a part of the same entity. Now the woman is riding the beast, but we see that she's not the beast and she's not a part of the beast. So this leads us to the conclusion that the beast is some institution that has been in an alliance with Catholicism, in an alliance with the false religious system, but it is not the false religious system. And so we concluded that this beast represented, in the present time, the European Union, but it's a beast that represents Satan's great power that he has been working through in Europe and the old world across the ages. And we identified that power, that beast power, as having 7 heads, and those 7 heads being the 7 great empires that have ruled in that part of the world, the 7 great empires that have been used by Satan in his effort to destroy God's people. So we said those empires were Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and the revived Roman Empire, which is like the European Union, which is the beast again coming together, but in a different form than previously. And so we said that this is a beast. And what we did last week was we tried to look at a connection between the beast and the mark of the beast, because of course, if the Roman Catholic institution is not the beast, then the mark of the beast would not have to do with Roman Catholicism. It would have to do with the powers of Europe. So what we tried to point out last week, what I tried to point out last week, is that the beast, when it appears the last time, when the final head appears, or even when the final head disappears and the beast comes out of the bottomless pit, the beast is basically a godless atheistic power. That in the final incarnation, the beast is completely godless. And the reason why we said this is because, first of all, the beast hates false religion because it tries to destroy it. It hates the woman and burns her. It tries to destroy God's religion, God's people. So clearly, this beast is against religion. But more than that, the beast is said to come from the bottomless pit. And when we look at that in a spiritual sense, a bottomless pit is a place where there's nothing of the presence of God or the Holy Spirit. So we concluded that this beast seems to be a completely godless entity, which seems to suggest that this beast is an atheistic beast. It's an atheistic power. So that led us to look at what the Bible says about the connection between rejecting God in Romans 1, when they turn away from God and they don't want to retain the knowledge of God, then they turn to homosexual practices. That's what the Bible says in Romans 1. and we didn't go into it in great depth, but one of the things that I pointed out was that one of the most atheistic continents, in fact, not one of the most atheistic continent on the planet, is Europe. And we see that Europe is one of the places which is foremost in pushing for sexual perversions to be a normal part of life, and in particular, homosexuality, homosexual marriage. Europe, this is a mark of Europe. Of all the countries in the world that have accepted, embraced the homosexual lifestyle and legitimized it, about 80% of them are from Europe. Outside of Europe, you have like New Zealand, Australia, the United States, and a couple of countries in South America. But the vast majority are from Europe. England, Holland, Germany, most of them, most of the European countries. So anyway, we also demonstrated that in the third angel's message, where it warns against the mark of the beast, the statements that are made are pointing to Sodom and Gomorrah. We also show that the two witnesses, God's two witnesses, will be killed in the streets of a city that is called both Sodom and Egypt, which I suggested is not a literal place, but it's a spiritual atmosphere in which the environment in which God's witnesses will die is characterized by the spirit of Sodom and the spirit of Egypt. Barefaced defiance of God and rampant sexual immorality. Those are the conditions that it seems to suggest. So, before proceeding any further, I would like to know if there are any questions arising from those studies. Anything that anybody wants me to focus on a little bit more before we go any further. Wayne is just commenting that the flag, I don't know if he means the flag of the gay movement, it's associated with the NHS health service during this period of COVID-19. All right, so
yeah, yes, so that's what I'm saying.
the gay
the gay flag is all over the place in association with the whole health service. Because every Thursday night here, individuals come out of their house and clap, and knock pans in appreciation for the nurses are doing. But that's a flag that is used all over the individuals' windows, hanging outside, in association with saying thanks to the nurses for their support during this COVID-19 situation, all over.
Okay, that's interesting. So at least in some places they are trying very hard to link the gay movement with the COVID-19 effort. So that's interesting. All right, well, if there are no questions and no other comments, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my Bible, and we're going to continue to look at the whole issue concerning the beast. Now, somebody last week had asked also about the 144,000, and I did say that we could look at it more closely this week. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the second beast, because that's the part of the picture that is missing. I'm going to look at the second beast, and I don't think that would take too long. And then we will look at the 144,000. I don't remember who asked the question, but is it who? Oh, it was Stephanie. Was it Stephanie McCray?
Tiffany and Marvin.
Okay, and you're here? Are they here?
No, he's sick, remember? He was sick last week, but I don't think they're on right now.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry if they're not on. I wouldn't want to go into it until they're here. So let's look at the second beast, and then we will maybe by then they'll be here. All right, so I'm going to share my screen, bring up my Bible. All right, so as a matter of fact, let me use the double screen because, all right, if I need it, I'll go there. So we're on Revelation 13, we're in Revelation 13, and in Revelation 13, as I pointed out, there are two beasts. But whenever the Bible talks about, in anywhere else in Revelation that it talks about the beast, it simply says the beast. And the point is that there is one of these entities that is specifically identified as beast number one, are the main beast. The other one is referred to as a false prophet. In Revelation 19, where the second beast appears, it's called a false prophet. So it's more in a supporting role. It more supports the first beast. And I know this is an interesting way to look at it, but it's what the Bible is trying to say. That's why it's called a false prophet. It's not that it predicts the future. It's that the work of the second beast gives support to the first beast. It induces everybody to accept the philosophies and the ideas of the first beast. Let us note that point. What we can see is that the first beast is the one that Satan uses over the ages. But as we come down to the end of time, it is the second beast who becomes dominant. The first beast kind of, he backs out of the picture for a bit, but the second beast becomes dominant. And then the second beast gets everybody to worship the first beast in the sense that everybody accepts the philosophies and the ideas and the system of the first beast. It's important that we understand this. So it's in this sense that the second beast is a prophet. He goes before the face of the first beast. Whenever we hear the word a prophet, automatically it might jump to our minds that we are talking about predicting the future. And in some cases, we might think it means miracles, supernatural miracles. But in the book of Revelation, looking at this picture, everything has a figurative meaning. So when he talks about miracles, we have to look at the principle behind it. In my opinion, look at the principle behind it instead of the detail to expect it to be exactly what is said, because it's not like that in Revelation. So anyway, let's look at the second beast a little more closely. I know most of us will agree that the second beast is the United States, and I heartily agree because I can't see any other application when you look at the what it says. In verse 11, John says, I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Everything has a meaning in the book of Revelation, everything. So when it says this beast comes up out of the earth, well, first of all, when he says another beast, we understand that he means another political system. And probably not just another political system, it is an empire. And when we say empire, we mean a kingdom or a nation that rules other nations. Now, in the case of America, this is not as striking as it might have been in the old world, where you had Rome conquering other nations and bringing them into the Roman Empire, and Greece and Babylon doing the same. But America is also, it has Puerto Rico as a part of America, which is outside of America. It has Hawaii as a part of America. It has the US Virgin Islands. It has Guam. It has other smaller nations that are a part of its dominion. But within America itself, it is like 52 nations, 52 small nations that are under one system of government. Because if you understand how Europe is set up right now with the European Union, what they are trying to do is to set up a system similar to America. America is a nation that is made up of little states that each one, I mean, some of these states have even threatened at different times to pull away and become individual nations. The condition of the country and the state of the country means that it is made up of separate entities that each one in itself could almost be a separate nation. So it's an empire in this sense. So it's a beast, which means it's an empire. And this one comes up. This one comes up out of the earth. Now, the earth here, we have to see the earth in direct opposition to what it says about the first beast. The first beast rose up out of the sea. You can't look at these things and just put that bypass them, because Revelation is not a book that is put together by accident. It's the design of God Almighty. It's infinite wisdom, and it is amazingly designed. That is one reason why, when it comes to Revelation, I'm trying my best not to come to careless conclusions. I'm trying my best to give weight to every word, because God designed it. It's like the most amazing puzzle that was ever put together. It's like the most amazing riddle that you have ever encountered. And by nature, I'm not good at riddles. But the thing is, there are so many clues in the book of Revelation, and plus, when the Holy Spirit is directing your thoughts, you do have the possibility of understanding. So it says that the first beast comes out of the sea, and that is in contrast to the second beast coming up out of the earth. So these things, I believe, mean something. So if the first beast came up out of the sea, and the Bible tells us, I'll just look at it. I mean, most of us are familiar with this. I don't want to take us back into primary school, but there may be some people here who are not familiar with it. In Revelation 17 and verse 15, God tells us that the waters which you saw where the horse sitteth, represent peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So God kind of gives us this clue that water represents multitudes of people, multitudes of nations. And so we understand that the beast came up out of the earth in an area that had a lot of people. And this adequately describes Europe and the old world at the time when the beast came into power, way back in the distant past. This was the only part of the world that was known. It was populated, and it was the only part of the world that was populated for ages. Europe was the center, not just Europe, Europe and the old world, Europe and the Middle East and North Africa. They were the center of civilization, and that is where the beast had its dominion for thousands of years. But about 300 years ago, another massive power began to arise on the earth. And this power rose up to become what most describe as the most powerful nation on earth. And this nation did not arise in a highly developed or highly populated part of the earth. This nation, of course, is the United States of America. It came up out of the earth. And if water means something, logically, earth is the opposite of water. So if water represents that, the old world, I'm going to suggest that the earth represents the new world, or this part of the earth. So at this time, the new world was not as populated, it was not civilized, it was not developed as the old world was. When Christopher Columbus came to the new world, there were people living here, but it was not massively populated. There were the Red Indians, the Arawaks, and this, and you know, as European civilization spread to places like Australia and New Zealand, they found the Aborigines and the Maoris and the people from the South Sea Islands, but it was not developed, and it was not massively populated as it is today. So this new world, what we call the new world, is what the Bible represents as the earth. So what it is saying is that Europe, the beast, was the great power in the old world. But in the new world, there was arising another massive power now, another beast, another empire, another nation that took on the properties of empire. And the Bible tells you that this beast, the second beast, had two horns like a lamb, but he spake as a dragon. And this is very telling, because as soon as you think of the imagery of a lamb, you think of Jesus. And if you look through the entire New World, you think of the countries of South America because they developed about the same time. Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, Chile, Paraguay, Uruguay, Venezuela. Think of countries like Jamaica, the little islands. Think of places like Australia. Which of these countries would you say that had the characteristics of a lamb or Christ-like characteristics? America was built specifically on the principles of religious freedom, civil and religious liberty. That is one of the things that Americans love to talk about, and they're always talking about the Constitution, because the American Constitution declared certain things to be inalienable rights. They were fundamental rights of humanity, and these were built into the American Constitution. So America looked like a lamb. It had the principles of Christ, the principles
I have
of
a quick
freedom.
question, Vin.
Yes, sorry.
You just mentioned something that we all learned as we were growing up. We learned about the prophecy that the two horns represents civil and religious liberties. But of all the beasts that we've ever looked at before, from Daniel coming down, horns never represented liberties. Do you agree that those two horns and the second beast represent civil and religious liberties?
Okay, that is what, as you said, we all learned, and that is what I held to for a long time. But not too long ago, a second idea was introduced to me that seems to make more sense. And it's not perfect, but it's close enough. Because somebody suggested that the two horns could represent the twin states of America and Canada. Because although these are two different nations, they are in the same geographic location, they are on the same continent, and they are both dominated by the same principles. Very, very well. I know that there are many things America does that Canada doesn't agree with, but principally, they are the closest friends among nations, and they operate so much like one nation that until recently you never even needed a passport to travel from one country to the other. So they were basically moving together as one entity. So the two horns like a lamb, the suggestion was made, and it seems to make sense to me. That's as far as I will put it. Okay, is that the two horns represent the two kingdoms, the two kingdoms of the American continent. So you have like the United States of Europe with Canada. You have like the United European Union. You have two different nations that operate very closely together and cooperate very closely together. So anyway, I just put that in as Brother Howard asked. But it says of this second beast that he spake as a dragon. Now you can see right in that sentence the image of Christ speaks like a lamb, and the image of Satan, he speaks like a dragon. He looks like a lamb, but speaks like a dragon. And what the Bible is saying to us is that the country or this empire has an appearance that is very attractive. It has an appearance of something Christian, but the real nature of it is a dragon-like nature. It speaks like a dragon. You know, the principle is there in the scripture. Jesus says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So you have a deception because it looks good, but the heart is the heart of a dragon. And I'm not saying that America was always like this, but I'm saying that it developed to this place pretty rapidly, because America is a very young country, 300 years, but already it very much is speaking like a dragon. So what does it mean when it speaks like a dragon? Well, let me explain that. Satan's appointed representative has been the first beast, right? Because it says that the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. It says that in verse 3 of the same chapter, right? In verse 2. And the dragon gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. So the mouthpiece of the dragon has been the first beast. But now it says that the second beast, we would say that he pulls a fast one on everybody, the second beast, because he comes into being looking like a lamb, and everybody says, "Yeah, we have a hero." And then he speaks like a dragon. He behaves just like the first beast. So he's really like all the beasts. He's a tool of Satan, but he only deceives with a lamb-like appearance. And I mean, you are hard put to find anything that can fulfill this prophecy as perfectly as the United States of America. You can't find anything else. Right now, one of the countries that is most in demand anywhere in the world is America. People leave their homes where they grew up, where they have made their life. They sell everything and they go to America when they are in their 60s, if they get the chance, because it is a land for them of freedom and opportunity. They leave from everywhere in the world, from India, from Poland, from Jamaica, from everywhere, and they head for America if they can get the chance. Right now, President Trump is making it difficult for some people, but people go there because they view America as the land of freedom and the land of opportunity. Because that's the appearance America and Canada have, right? Canada as well. But the Bible says that he speaks as a dragon. You know, the Adventist pioneer, A.T. Jones, made a statement. I can't put my finger on exactly where it is, but Jones says, the day is coming when everybody who is living in America will pray that he might live somewhere else. A.T. Jones said this. And based on what the Bible says, probably Jones might be telling the truth. We will see how it develops. But it says that this beast speaks like a dragon. In other words, the principles of Satan will be demonstrated in this country. And those of us who have our eyes open, I'm not going to go into all the things that are happening, right? But there are many things happening in America right now, and over the past few years, that people are beginning to hear the voice of the dragon. There is still a prevailing idea that America is the land of the free and the brave. It still prevails. There are some Americans who are so sold on this. They are so sold on this idea that they themselves are creating a dragon-like attitude to anybody who says anything different. Anyway, that's just by the way. All right. Now let's see in what ways this beast demonstrates dragon-like principles. Let's see. We go to verse 12.
Brother David, before you go to 12, please, I got to say this, if
Yes,
I may.
madam.
Verse 11, I think it's a stretch to, when we talk about keeping things in order, when we talk about the dragon, when we talk about that, the first beast having horns, and that making that an emphasis that the beast has horns and what those horns are. The beast is an empire. And then you got another beast with horns. We now can't take those two horns and make them into empires if we're going to be consistent. They're going to have to stay whatever those horns are like on the first beast, those 10 horns. They're going to have to remain horns on the second beast. The same principle has to apply. They can't turn into kingdoms.
Well, what I was saying is that horns in every one of the prophecies, horns represent sub kingdoms within an empire.
Okay, yeah,
Maybe I didn't make that point clear, but if you look at all the prophecies from Daniel 7 coming down, horns represent individual nations, while
right.
beasts represent empires.
Empires, right.
So
Yeah,
it should mean the same thing on this two-horned beast as well. I mean, if you make it the principles of civil and religious liberty, you have changed the meaning of horns entirely.
right.
So the best we can do is look for two nations.
Okay. Now
Yes.
that's clear.
Okay. Thanks
Thank-
for catching me up there, because I clearly confused the water. All right. So in verse 12, it says, the second beast now, he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him. And before him here says in his presence, right? So in other words, it suggests that these two beasts are in a close relationship, and one is doing something even while the other one is still alive. The other one is still in existence. So when it says he exercises his power before him, it doesn't mean that the second beast goes stand before the first beast. It means that while the first beast is still in existence and still in his seat, the second beast now begins to do something even while the first one is there. One is not gone and then the other one comes. All right. So he exercises all the power. And what was the power of the first beast? What was this power? It says the dragon gave him his power. So the power that the second beast begins to exercise is the power of Satan, right? He exercises all the power of Satan. And what was this power? It's the power to dominate and control all the other nations. This was the power of the first beast. Whether you go from the days of Egypt coming right down, those empires have dominated the known world. So this second beast now becomes the dominant power, and he exercises all the power that the first beast used to exercise. And he causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. So this second beast is not seeking worship for himself in the first instance. He's seeking worship for the first beast. And he's causing the earth and those who live in it to worship that first beast. Now, here's an interesting point. Does the phrase the earth change meaning? Because I just made a big point up here when it says that the second beast comes up out of the earth and the first beast came up out of the sea. Now, when it says this second beast causes the earth to worship the first beast, does it mean everybody on the planet, or does it mean those who live in his area? Because his area is referred to as the earth. See if you understand what I'm saying. The second beast comes up out of the earth. His
The new
area is
world.
represented. Come again?
The new world.
The new world. The new world. In other words, it seems to me that what we are seeing is that the second beast dominates the new world, while the first beast continues to dominate the old world, because it says the second beast exercises the power before the first beast. In other words, they are both there together. But the second beast is causing the earth or the new world to worship that first beast. Now we understand that we are looking at the prophecy, and worship does not mean that they pray to this empire, or that they fall down on their faces and worship this empire. Worship here suggests that they give their loyalty to something. That's what worship means primarily in Revelation. When it says that they worship the dragon, they worship Satan. They don't worship Satan in the sense that we understand worship. They worship Satan in that they give their loyalty to the principles of Satan. They adopt Satan's principles and they reject God's principles, so they worship Satan. It's the same thing here. America is causing the people who dwell in this part of the world to adopt certain principles that have been embedded in Europe. And in this way, the people in this part of the world are worshiping the first beast. It's accepting the principles that predominate in Europe. I'm trying to explain it point by point. That's what I'm seeing, right? So what America has to do is introduce certain principles in our part of the world that have their origin and their root in Europe. That's what I'm saying. All right. So how does he get the people?
David,
Yes, yes, brother. Is it
this
brother?
is
Brother Ayayi?
Brian.
Yes.
I well, I don't tend to agree with that. That the earth here is just in America. I would say that the cause of the earth is the world.
Okay. I understand, brother
Because
Ayayi.
the principles they are standing for here is not just for the countries in the new world, like what you said before. Even if you go to Africa now, that's the same principles they have been defending in Africa. So I won't say that is just here. So The earth here, I will say, is the world.
All right, I understand you, brother Ayayi, and I appreciate that, and that is there's a reason why I take this position, and the reason why I take this position is because I want to be consistent in how I interpret the prophecy. If you have earth here in verse 11, meaning one thing, and then the next verse, the same word appears and it means something else, then it's difficult to say you're consistent in how you interpret the prophecy. And furthermore, when you come down to verse 14, it uses the word again.
Brother David,
So, yeah, I'm coming, Nikki. So each time, and it uses it twice in this verse 14, and each time you have to see if you have to be consistent. If you're not consistent, you have to have a reason for your inconsistency, and you have to have a solid reason. So this is the reason why I say this, and I think I can explain how it can be the whole world that is affected, and yet the prophecy is focusing on the earth. But I'll come to that. Go ahead, Nikki.
yeah, I wanted to say that to Brother Ayai that the verse that you're dealing with, it said that it caused the people in the earth, and right now we're sticking with the earth. Even if the earth is, let's say the earth is a new world, right? Causes the people in the earth to worship the first beast, which is the old world, right? And Africa is a part of the old world. And Brother David was just explaining that worship the first beast means adopt the principles from the old world. So even if Africa is having same mentalities or same principles like in the new world, it would still be in accordance to what Brother David is saying, because if Africa is a part of the old world, then the the beast is making the new world adopt these same principles that the old world had from long ago, right?
All right, thank you, Nikki. You got what I'm trying to say, right? I'm going to go back to a statement in Revelation 11, just for a moment. Revelation 10, just quickly. I'm coming back here. I'm not going to move too far. But in Revelation 10, it says that I saw a mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud. We know this prophecy, right? And it says, and he had in his hand a little book open, and he set his right foot upon the sea and his left foot on the earth. Notice his left foot on the earth. Now, you could ask yourself the question, what does this mean? Because as I said, everything in the prophecy has a meaning. It says the angel sets his right foot on the sea, and he sets his left foot on the earth. You see the same two elements appear, sea and earth. And the angel has a little book open. What do we think God is trying to say here? I mean, it seems to me that God is trying to say that this angel, this message that the angel is carrying, it covers both parts of human existence, the old world as well as the new world, right? So God still divides the earth. In the prophecy, God still divides the earth in these two sections, the sea and the earth. Both things mean something distinctly. That's what I'm trying to say. And that is why in this prophecy, God specifically shows you the angel standing on those two areas. So I think when you come to Revelation 13 now, and you see the same two areas mentioned, to be careful about how we interpret it. We have to maintain the same kind of distinction between these two areas. But I think as we go down a little further, brother Ayayi, you can see you will see why it makes sense. All right. So in verse
Sorry,
13,
a quick thing, but if it's going to lead you off, then you can just ignore it. It's chapter 12, also talking about the earth helping the woman, and if it's correct, the interpretations of persecution and the earth and the woman running away into the wilderness, and the earth opening her mouth and not the earth saving the woman. Verse 16, earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed the flood that was cast off, that the dragon cast after the woman. That also, if I'm seeing as a direct link to where the beast actually comes from.
Right. Yeah, that's another good one, because when we say the earth helped the woman, I mean, it has always been explained that this means that the Christians fled persecution in Europe and they found refuge in the Americas. And we know that that is exactly what happened. The persecution against Protestantism was so strong in Europe. Many of them fled from Europe, and the Protestant churches really found a refuge in the United States, Canada, in this part of the world. And so this is represented in the prophecy as the earth opening her mouth and helping the woman. So that's another verse that suggests that the earth here has specific reference to this part of the world. Um, but let's go to verse 13, back to chapter 13 and verse 13. It says that this two-horned beast, this American beast, he does great wonders so that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. This has led many commentators, and primarily Adventists, they're the ones I know about most, they're the ones I learned my foundation of prophecy from. It says that when we talk about miracles, we're talking about religious entities, and so they say that this represents not political America but religious America. So they said that this refers to the Protestantism of America. So Protestantism in America will perform miracles to persuade people to worship the Roman Catholic Church. That's the interpretation, that they are going to even call down fire from heaven. But as I said, we have to be aware that we are dealing with symbolic prophecy. Now, when it says that there are great wonders and fire comes down from heaven, and it goes on to say in verse 14, and he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. So we see that the influence of this second beast is strong. He achieves his methods, he achieves his purposes by means of these miracles. Let me practicalize it. What gives America the freedom? What gives America the opportunity to create something that looks like Europe? What gives America the opportunity? It's the miracles, it's the fire coming down from heaven. These are the things that persuade people. The word deceive is used. These are the things that persuade the people to create. Let me see, I didn't even read that part. In the last part of verse 14, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast which had a wound by a sword and did live. So what this is saying is that America is going to persuade the people who live in this part of the world to make an image to the beast or of the beast. In other words, in this part of the world, a system is to be set up, a system of government is to be set up that is similar to what we saw in the system of the beast. That's the point. The image of the beast is a system set up in this part of the world, in the earth, a system set up in the earth, this part of the world, that is similar to the system of government that existed in the years that the beast was reigning in the old world. That is the image of the beast. And how does America persuade? How does free America? How does religious liberty America? How does America, with the Constitution that guarantees civil and religious rights, how does America come to create a system that looks very much like communism, that becomes religiously intolerant, that dominates people, takes away their civil rights? How does America do this? The Bible says America does it by the wonders that America causes to happen. Now, I don't want to put specifics on these miracles, but I'm going to just ask you to do something. I want you to consider, what are the things that have happened which have enabled America to step by step begin to create a system of government that looks more and more like communism.
9/11.
That looks more and more like religious intolerance. That looks more and more like the system of the beast over the past 2,000 years. What are the events that have been taking place that convinces the world to do these things? Yes, yes, Nikki.
Terrorism, 9/11, those things.
From my perspective, what I've seen happening since 2000 and maybe even before, but I didn't see it as clearly as since 2000, is things like 9/11, things like the school shootings, things like the bombings. I see systematically, incrementally, but systematically, more and more steps being taken to take away the rights that Americans consider to be inalienable and unchangeable. They are being taken away down to the place where in America, where one of the foundations is that everybody should have the right to carry arms, they are now taking the guns away from Americans. They are now they have since 9/11 they made it possible for the police to come and lock you up and put you away without a charge for as long as you live by just accusing you of terrorism. This is one of the reasons why even this COVID-19 thing, the extreme response. Some of my friends and my family, they don't like my perspective, right? But I say to them, I have no reason to trust any government on this planet. I have no reason to trust American government. I I I I look at prophecy and I know what to expect, and I expect that every step these powers that be, they are going to take greater and greater control of people, and they are going to abuse the rights and the consciences of the people until it comes to the place where they demand that you receive the mark of the beast. That's what I see in the prophecy, and that's exactly what I see these verses talking about.
If I may make a quick comment, David.
Sure, Hobby.
I just all my life, nobody ever explained to me that idea that verse 13 brings out that this beast, this power, actually make it fire to come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And honestly, when I examine this, understanding the ideas of the symbolic representation, what I see is that this power will cause destruction on the earth, the fire representing destruction on the earth, in the sight of men. That's an interesting perspective. But Nikki did mention 9/11, and what is very strange. I mean, there are probably people right here who still believe that two planes flew in the World Trade Centers, right? But what is interesting is that such power do exist that can cause two buildings the size of what has been mentioned to fall to the earth in free fall speed. I mean, that is something awesome. That I mean, it would have baffled your mind should in case somebody would have mentioned that to you any time before. But yet the Bible predicts that this would have happened. Something that is very interesting also. Are the fires, the California fires. And if anybody ever seen the footage of those fires, it is beyond impossible that a house could burn all the way to the ground, leaving nothing. And yet a tree standing 3 feet apart from the house is still green. I mean, these things just causes you to think. I was just looking at some drone pictures that was actually put on the news. But I also realized that when deception is great, it's easy to tell a lie and it is still believed. But those things just help me to recognize that God has chosen the things He has said. He said it specifically that the power would have caused fire or destruction to come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And also that by doing this, He deceiveth the world because it has power to do these things. And people are still deceived. They say, no, 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 no. It is real. It was really this. It was really that. And you follow the narrative of the news instead of looking at the evidences before you. That's all I wanted to say as it relates to verse 13.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Howard. So by nature, I am not a conspiracy theorist by nature, because I know how easy it is for people to make up lies. and for people to get carried away by random ideas, because I myself have been hoodwinked once or twice or deceived once or twice. So I'm very wary. But some of the things that have happened and some of the evidences, when I look at them, I want to be reasonable. And some of these things are so striking and so compelling, it's hard to avoid believing in the conspiracy. In any case, whether we believe in conspiracies or not, you can just look at the raw prophecy, look at the prophecy itself, and look at what it says will happen. And the conclusions become inevitable. They become inevitable. Somewhere in America, things are going to happen that will cause the people to agree to set up a system of government which is similar to what has existed in Europe over the ages of persecution. Once you begin to understand this, then you just simply have to ask, has this happened in America? What has led America in this direction? And what is leading America in that direction? Every day, every new crisis, something else is taken from the principles of freedom that America stood for. The appearance of the Lamb is changing, and the voice of the dragon is being heard. And I think even the most loyal Americans among us, if there are any such, we know what we see it happening, because it's simply the word of God being fulfilled. I mean, in these cases, when it comes to the word of God, national loyalty must take a back seat. The word of God tells the truth, and that is what we build our understanding and our loyalties upon. Now it says in verse 15,
Oh,
and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. In other words, what does this mean? It means that when this, and let me go back to the earth, because I intended to mention that. It says he deceives those that dwell on the earth, and this could apply to the whole planet. But when he says to them that dwell on the earth, he says to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image. That again seems to be zeroed in on the location, because the image of the beast is in the presence of the beast, but it's also, it's something set up to look like the beast, but the beast already exists in his part of the world. There's no need to set up a system like this in that part of the world. The necessity is to set up a system like the old world system in the new world. So the message is to those who dwell in the new world, those who dwell on the earth. That again seems to me to suggest our part of the world. So they had to make this image to the beast which had a wound by the sword and did live. And he has power to give life. He has power to give life unto the image of the beast. And what this means is that when this system is set up, it won't be something just on paper, because a lot of principles or laws are made that just exist on paper. But this is not the case with this image of the beast, because it says that the image of the beast will both speak, and it will cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Now, since we are dealing with prophecy, does the word killed mean literally killed? Because we have been saying everything, we have been translating it. So maybe this word killed might have another meaning, but I'll tell you something, whatever it means, it is something very bad. It's something very negative, and it may very well be literal killing. I'm just saying that because we are interpreting everything, we could consider that as well. But whatever it is, it's something very bad. And what it is saying is that those who will not submit to what this beast is saying, this dragon speaking beast,
mm-hmm.
these rules that are made and these requirements that are imposed on the people, those who refuse to cooperate, you will see if the beast is just mouth. In Jamaica, we have a saying, when somebody is always threatening and nothing behind it, we say he's a bag of mouth. He's a bag of mouth. That's all he is, right? But what the Bible is saying, what God is saying, is that the beast is not a bag of mouth. The beast will not only speak, but he will cause that those who don't worship the image shall be killed. Now, notice the two things that he does. He makes everybody worship the first beast. It says that in verse 12. He makes them worship the first beast. And secondly, he makes them worship the image of the beast. So this second beast promotes the first beast in such a way that everybody is to worship the first beast. And then he sets up an image of the beast and compels everybody who lives where he lives to also worship the image of the beast. Now, I'm going to suggest that worship here has to do with two things. In worshiping the first beast, what they do is they adopt the principles of the first beast. And in worshiping the image of the beast, what they do is they submit to the commandments of the image. So it's worship the beast and worship the image of the beast, but the worship here has slightly different implications. Because we don't live under the dominion of the first beast. I live in Jamaica. I don't live in Europe. Europe can't tell me how to live. But what America does is America introduces some principles from Europe and demands that we accept them. And so in that way, it is promoting worship of European beast. And secondly, it makes rules that compels me to bow to those principles. And when I bow to those principles, when I bow to those rules, then I'm actually worshiping the American image, the image of the beast, a system of government that is set up like the European system. That's how I understand it.
A quick question, Red David.
Yes, go ahead, Howie.
And sorry if I'm interrupting too much.
No, man, it's okay. It's better when it's interactive.
Right. What happened is I wanted to just say something about the last part of verse 14, because there is the school of thought that the beast, the image that is being set up, has to do specifically with the beast that was wounded by the sword and did live. That specific last part of the verse suggesting that in Adventist theology that it was the wounding and the healing from 1798 to 1929 that is there referred to, and so I'm just asking whether or not you would say something on that part of the verse that says the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live, recognizing that it was one of the heads, it says, that had this in chapter in the early part of chapter 13.
All right,
if that is going to put you off, then I mean you can probably just ignore it.
I'll make a quick comment on it. I didn't notice that Sister Diane's hand was up, so let me take her point and then I'll comment on you afterwards, Howard. Go ahead, Sister Diane.
Okay, I wanted to say about the conspiracy theory. Don't be too caught up on that idea of being, because that term was created by the CIA, and it was created as a result of not wanting people to know the truth about Kennedy's death, because the truth is coming out that, Oswald wasn't alone. He was shot in different directions. And even, you know what I mean? So the truth was coming out about the death of Kennedy. And so to get people thrown off, the good old Jesuits, CIA, created the term conspiracy theories. And now you're labeled, if you even think outside, that something could be wrong. You know what I mean? So we have to be careful, because we have to examine these things and not just believe the status quo or feel like we're part of a conspiracy theorist, because, that's just the way they've created us to think, so that we won't be. So I just wanted to say that. And I also wanted to say in verse 15 about should be killed. Now, I know you say all of this is symbolic, but symbols have to have a reality. So it's not like it's a symbol. Then if it almost makes it like it's fiction if it's just symbolic and it has no reality. The reality is the first beast definitely did a whole lot of killing to anyone who didn't go along with them, where this country had a different take on things. Well, aside from slavery, but I won't go there. But it had a different take on things, that it had a system of government that was going to not be ruled by religious entities and popes and kings and things of that nature, so that they wouldn't have that kind of tyranny. right? Because they were leaving it. So it would stand to reason that if they're going to make an image to that beast who did kill for whatever reason, that you could also be killed for real in this system as well.
Yes, I agree. There has to be some point where some of these things have to be literal, but I just put in that caveat in case anybody says, be consistent. I'm just covering the base. I agree with you. So back to Brother Howard's emphasis here in verse 14. It says that they were to make an image to the beast which had the wound by the sword and did live. And all I see God simply saying here, he's emphasizing an image of who? An image of which beast? Instead of saying the beast with his 7 heads and 10 horns, God just identifies one characteristic of the beast, so you understand who he's speaking about. Or John then. He says that it tells them that they should make an image to the beast. Which beast? The one that had the wound by the sword and did live. It's not saying that this is referring to the beast at that point in time, because it's kind of silly to say that America is making an image of a wounded beast, because then America would have to go through the process of being wounded as well, right? So it's not saying America made a wounded beast or an image of a wounded beast. It's really highlighting that America made an image of the beast. And when you think of the beast, it says that it exercises all the power of the beast. So you are looking for the same principles, the same elements, persecuting the saints, commanding, worshiping the dragon, being the tool of Satan. These are the things that we're looking for. So the image of the beast is a system within the beast, because America is the beast, right? America is the two-horned beast. But America says, make an image. So what is the nature of this image? It's a system within America, or within the American environment, that is set up along the same lines as the first beast. Same system.
Could I mention something here, Vid?
Sure.
Is it possible that of all the beasts that exist in the past, there's only one beast that was described to be made of iron and teeth of brass? Only one beast, it seemed, that had a great draconian principle, and surprisingly, that is the only beast that was actually wounded by a sword and yet did live, which is the Roman beast. So could it be that the same draconian principles, I mean, the fact that America begins to speak like a dragon, could it be that they're actually making a replica of what Rome used to be? Just an idea.
Yes, I mean, I would agree that it's a replica of the Roman principles. You know, the beast is God identifies the beast, and the beast, all of the beasts by nature were persecuting powers. All of the beasts by nature tried to destroy God's people. It's just that the Roman beast was the most fierce, the worst of them all, in terms of how much damage it did, and in terms of how it went about doing this damage, because we know how Rome crucified the prisoners. They say at
Right.
one time, the ground outside Jerusalem was covered with crosses, as so thick you could hardly walk between them. You know, so Rome was really a terrible, terrible empire. So, yeah, it would best represent what we see coming, because what we anticipate, according to the Bible, is the greatest time of trouble that the world has ever seen.
Okay. I just thought I'd just add that piece.
Yeah, man, no problem. It says in verse 16, and he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, covers everybody, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So it's kind of obvious. It goes without saying that what we are likely to be seeing here is limitations on our ability to trade, limitations on our ability to carry out financial transactions, right? It's symbolic, but the Bible puts it very simply. It's not symbolic. It's figurative. It's using It's using language that is not absolutely specific because we use different terminology in our time. But what it is saying is that one of the sanctions for not worshiping the image is the inability to do trade. First of all, in order to trade, in order to do any kind of business, in order to function in the society, you have to have a mark. So what this says is that there's going to be some means of identifying the people who have permission, who have legitimate right in the society to do business. It's interesting. I can understand why a lot of people are asking if this COVID thing is related to the mark, because I've seen articles where there's one particular state where somebody was asked, what if they don't, the governor was asked, what if people don't decide to take the vaccination? And he said, you'll not be allowed to leave your home to go to the store. You'll not be allowed to leave your home and go and purchase anything. Well, he did say that somebody would have to go and do it for you. But the idea that the government is taking a position in any circumstance at all, that they confine where you can go for any reason other than crime, is unthinkable. And yet we see it is what is happening. And the thing is, none of us believes that this is the mark of the beast. But what we find to be frightening is that something as small as this can give the authorities the right to take those kinds of steps. What if it is something that they consider more serious? What if it is something like the crisis that the mark of the beast brings, when you are viewed as a threat against society? I mean, at one point it seemed very difficult to understand how could the government do this, compel everybody, put everybody in a position where you can't buy or sell, you can't trade. Today it is as simple as ABC. The world is moving towards a cashless society, and if I were not a Christian, I would say it's the best thing. Okay, you have one card, or you have a chip somewhere if they use a microchip, and you go to the airport, you forgot your passport, no, it's in your chip. You go to the bank, you forgot your card, no, it's in your chip. You go to be identified somewhere, it's in your chip. Nobody can steal money from you because everything is in your chip. It's a beautiful, perfect system, except you know what is behind it. The technology is there. Every financial system in the world is linked. All governments are linked. All the police systems are linked. In China, it is at the place you cannot walk on the street. There are millions of cameras. If your name comes up as somebody who is in suspicion, the police finds you in 5 minutes because the cameras have facial recognition. You cannot walk on the street without being recognized. So the technology is in place for this to happen. And what we see going on in the world today is like a test run of how far. I mean, many people believe that it seems to be a kind of test run of how far can the governments go before the people protest. But amazingly, the vast majority of people embrace what is happening with open arms. They are willing to have no job. They are willing to stay home and lock themselves up. They are willing to be not able to exercise or to play their games. Everything because suddenly they feel that their lives are under threat. And I'll tell you, whether it is intended to be so or not, it's a beautiful test run for how to implement the mark of the beast. So the Bible says, I mean, those people who don't believe in the Bible, they should be scared out of their skin right now because the Bible is being fulfilled. The conditions that the Bible speaks about, the conditions are so strikingly being fulfilled. Yes, Dan, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Do not be sorry. It's good to have the interaction.
but I think I like the fact that Brother Howard used the word draconian. I think that's how you say that word, but that is something, those laws are really harsh, and that's what the Nazis did to suppress the press. Okay, so what do you do when you're going to control the press and suppress the press? you have these laws that restrict what you can say and then put what you want to say. Now we know we've all had propaganda for years, and for the years that I grew up, we were told that it was Russia. Well, it was the USSR that used propaganda and their stuff. But in the meantime, we were also getting propaganda, and they weren't telling us that. And so the fact that these laws are what, and that word is being used even in the media, that these laws that are happening to us right now are draconian because they're really harsh and they're senseless, and the censorship of the Facebook, the Instagrams, all the media outlets right here, right before our eyes, the Second Amendment is being taken away. I've had something on my Instagram account for them saying, oh, we decided that partially of what this doctor was saying was false, so we're going to flag this account. So you see, everything is happening, but it's the laws of how they control people that is interesting, how they get what we're seeing in these verses to happen. We said, how could it be? Because what we said as Adventists, it's just Sunday. Sunday's going to be the it. And I'm not saying Sunday and Sabbath is not an issue, but this is what Adventists have always said. Sunday is it, and that's just it. It's just going. And I've always questioned, well, how do we just get to the point where Sunday Sabbath becomes an issue? That they could then corral us and know, let's say I didn't want to go to church, or I would stop going to church. That would mean I wasn't keeping Sabbath. How would they know? Well, now we know how they'll know. Laws and systems are being put in place. Whether you go into church, they're going to count you. You're going to have to be reported. So that kind of system comes from the old world. That is definitely what happened in Europe. It happened in Russia, where everything was controlled. Every step was controlled, and your neighbor would turn against you to tell in order for them to survive. And they're setting that system up right now with the COVID trackers. So things are being put in place to me as a vehicle to get to the point. Well, yeah, once we get inside, they got everybody set up, whatever they're doing while we're sitting here, because they're doing something while we're sitting here. And then they say, well, guess what? Now you're going to be able to go out. But now the only day anybody will have to go to church will be on Sunday. That could be the very thing. Sunday laws are on the book in this country. They never left. So it'd be very easy for them to implement that if they're going to dictate who can go to church. If they can dictate how many can go to church, and if you can't go to church, that's an easy thing to say when you go to church. So I can see it's these kinds of things that mimic some of what we're seeing right now, mimicking what happened in Europe and what would be a precursor to the Sunday law.
All right.
That's interesting. That sorry to jump in here, but just listening to what Sister Diane says, I mean, I just recognize how quick, how fast, how swift things moved. That from the time that this thing was announced to be a national and international pandemic, how the laws came in so swift and fast that churches are closed. Every public event is closed. I mean, I recognize if we're in our buildings and in our churches and talking, nobody will know what we're saying. But now we all have to be online, and so we're open to the scrutiny of those who provide the services to us. So everybody now, the powers that be can examine the content of what is being shared, and different people can be marked as to where they are heading. You mentioned earlier, Vid, how that the rules that governs how quickly. I mean, I was just thinking about something that seemed innocent. This thing called neighborhood watch. When it started, everybody thought it was good that their neighbor would look out for you, right? So the neighborhood watch came in, and everybody, Lord, that's a man, it's a good thing. So my neighbor is looking out for me. But now you recognize the implications is wide as wide. So if you go on the road without a mask, everybody sees you and is suspicious of you. Now, even the buildings are saying, do not enter, no services given to anybody without a mask. And then they're telling you how to wear it. There's one store that Carlin was telling me, they say only one kind of mask they allow to come inside the store. Can you imagine that? It's not even a mask that you have on. They say those are not protective. This is the only one that we allow to come in here. And I'm thinking, when did we get to this place? And then everybody is set up to watch the other person and to report. And I just realized how easy, how quick, how fast. And as you said, look here, this trial run, this trial run passed in flying colors. I don't see why, if I was the beast, I don't see why I would turn back. I would just keep going, increase the momentum, and get to where I need to be.
Brother, they had said, they had the left, and I'm sorry, the left says this all the time. The Clintons, all of them say, don't let a good crisis go to waste. That's something that they say. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. Well, here we are. Let's use this crisis. Well, they use the other false flags, the shootings and different things that were cited and created, and now it didn't get us where they wanted. Well, don't let any good crisis go to waste. And this right here is a good crisis.
Strangely enough, and Vid, I'm sorry that I'm just walking in like this, but
No problem.
strangely enough, our own Jamaican Prime Minister, they said the very same thing in Parliament. I have it. I took the news piece and I cut out the clip. I have it on my computer saved, that he actually ended his speech by saying, we cannot let a good crisis go to waste. And it was in referring to our country being digitally recognized, that he needs to fast track this thing and get everybody on the digital recognition platform. And said the very same thing. We cannot let a good crisis go to waste. That's amazing.
It's a quote. It's a quote taken from Churchill.
Yeah.
It's a quote taken from Winston Churchill. It's used over here also. It's taken
Yeah,
from Winston
they're
Churchill.
saying it in Africa now. It's a one world language, you know. They're speaking with one voice, and that's why everybody in every country is doing the exact same thing.
And what our prime minister really was referring to is referring to they tried to get a national ID passed here, where you have your eye scan, your fingerprint, your toe print, I think you even were supposed to have your blood type or something. It was a complete ID card. They call it national ID system, and it was taken before the court and it was declared to be unconstitutional, and so it was stopped for a while. Actually, the IMF was giving them a lot of money to get everybody to do it. So they wanted to use up the money, and then the court stopped it. And so they are trying to get it in again. And then the prime minister said, you can see that we really need this national ID because it would help us so much in this crisis. We cannot afford to let a good crisis go to waste. So it's in that context that he was actually making that statement. So it's amazing.
Brother David.
Yes, brother. Yeah, go ahead, Brother Peter.
Yeah, the passage that you're looking at.
Yes.
The healing of the wound. Do you think it's something that has happened in the past, or is something that is yet to come?
I think it happened in the past.
All right, if it happens in the past, it would seem to suggest to me, in the context of a passage, that it happened during the mark of a beast issue. So if it happened in the past, it therefore means that the mark of a beast issue was in the past.
Well, I mean, if you look at it and you take it as a sequential description, it might seem that way, right? It might seem that way. It says, and I saw in verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. But if you look at the description of the beast from verse 1 coming down, it's a part of a panorama. In other words, when you look at a picture, sometimes you're not given things in the sequence of how they happen, but you're just told some general things about this thing. So we have to ask the question, are we being given a sequential series of events, or are we just being given some identification marks? So that's why I would say that I don't see it as necessarily so.
Okay, so that therefore means that the beast is Rome.
Right.
That's what you would say then?
I understand that the deadly wound took place when Rome was destroyed or broken into pieces, and the wound was healed when Rome began to come back together again during the time of the the development of the European Union.
Right.
So the beast therefore is Rome.
Right.
And not necessarily Europe. It will be specifically Rome.
Well, the beast, why I said the beast, why I refer to Europe and the old world is because the beast goes back through Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo Persia, Greece, and Rome. So it's all of those things, and those things are not limited to Europe.
But
Babylon,
each,
for example,
if I may just add quickly, Vid, that that each ruling power controlled the entire empire. So Rome, even though it was Rome, it did control the entire empire of Europe.
Right. So the
Right. So it's
beast,
not a
let me put
specific
it this way.
country.
The beast is a power that dominated that part of the world.
That's correct.
So at one point it was Babylon, one point Medo-Persia, one point Greece, one point Rome. So it's true to say that for the past 2,000 years, that beast has been Rome. So that's in that we're in agreement there, Peter, because Rome has been the beast for the past 2,000 years. But if you look at the whole beast with the seven heads, if you want to include the whole spectrum of the seven heads, you have to go beyond Rome. And it's that part of the world. Rome is primarily Europe at the moment, but it dominated the entire region, the Middle East and North Africa. So it's kind of like generalized to say the old world or the European beast. It's just kind of generalizing.
I mean, I
Brother
would
Clayton,
take the perspective bit of Rome being the kingdom according to Daniel that will reach the place of total annihilation, total destruction. In other words, as it says in Daniel 7, that the other kingdoms, they lost authority, but their lives were prolonged for a season at a time. But not so with the final power.
Right. Rome remains to the end. Rome is a
Right.
final empire.
Right. So and
That
and
part of it.
I'm not even sure if the mention that you did was it last week of the phrase is, no, is no, and was and
And it's
is
Mhm.
and is to come. No, is not, right. There is the is not, and yet is. Would that be a correct interpretation of Rome being then seem to be destroyed and yet comes back? That would seem to be the ideas that I would have of that power. Nevertheless, let me just ask you quickly, and maybe anybody else if they're thinking, do you think that the new world order might be that image to the beast? Just a thought. I mean, maybe your minds have been going in different direction, but do you see the push for this leads me to believe that there might be some close ties with the new world order and this image?
Well, for me personally, the New World Order is going to be global, and the image is an American thing, or the image is a New World thing. While the New World Order, if it's global, then it would have to include the first beast plus the second beast. It wouldn't be just an image in our part of the world. So that's the issue I have when somebody brings in the United Nations, or in this case, the New World Order, because the New World Order is global. As long as it is global, it must embrace both parts of the world. Whereas I see the second beast, America, here, focusing on this part of the world.
Okay.
So that's what I
Okay.
would say.
Reasonable.
Anyway,
Brother Clayton, before you go on, verse 16, he calls it all. Would you, well, I mean, you've been referring to the earth coming down, but where he says he calls it all, both great and small, would that now include both the earth and the sea?
um, it suggests, right? If you look at verse 14, it says, "He deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles." So I would say that the emphasis is on what he's doing in the earth, but at the same time, the implication, what I see, the implication is that he's simply following what the beast is doing in the other part of the world. It seems that way, right? Maybe I'm wrong, but the suggestion is that he's making an image of what is going on elsewhere. So I would think that both beasts are working together, the first beast in that part of the world and the second beast in this part of the world. So I believe the implication is that the crisis is everywhere, just that the second beast is pushing it here. If you go to Revelation 19, you see that both of them are there. When Jesus is coming, I saw the beast and the false prophet with their armies gathered together to make war against the one that is sitting on the horse, which is Christ, which means that, I mean, let me go there quickly and just look at it, right? If you look at what it says here, it says that and I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. Now, how do they make war against Jesus? Do they actually gather together? Are they really barefaced enough to take out their guns and try to shoot when Jesus is coming from the sky? I don't think anybody on this planet is going to be. In fact, the Bible says they are going to be destroyed by the brightness of his coming. So I think, well, I suppose you could say, well, maybe they pick up that there's somebody coming from outer space and they take it as an alien invasion and they line up their missiles and so on. Somebody could suggest that is what is happening, but I don't think so. I don't think anybody is going to be. I think they are going to be so blown away by the coming of Jesus that resistance is going to be the furthest thing from their minds. But when it says they are gathered together to make war, I think they are making war against the people of God. They are making war against the people of Christ. And that is how they gather together to make war against Christ and against his army. They are fighting against Christ, but I don't think it's open, direct, bare-faced warfare against Christ himself. So it says, when Jesus comes, the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that worked miracles before him, which had deceived those who received the mark of the beast and that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone. So what I'm saying, it is clear that whatever is happening, they are both doing it together. They are working in cooperation. So I think in Revelation 13 here, what we are focusing on is how it happens in the new world, because we already see that the first beast, people are worshiping the dragon and they are worshiping the beast and they are saying, who can make war with the beast? And he's speaking great things and blasphemies. And in his presence now, in his presence, a second beast is operating, and the second beast is doing everything that the first beast is doing, but he's doing it in his part of the world. That's the kind of picture that I'm seeing there, Sean.
Okay.
So it says it causes everybody to receive this mark. Now, I don't know if we have the time this evening to look at the mark. Last week I tried to point out that there's a connection between the mark of the beast and atheism and the homosexual movement. Not just homosexuality, the bare-faced promiscuity highlighted by the homosexual movement. And we looked at the biblical reasons why we were going in this direction. Now that we have come to this place, verses 16 to 18, we should really be tying this together with what we saw last week. But we have been at this for an hour and a half, and I think it's time to stop, because if we continue, overdoing it will make people even more confused than the subject can make us sometimes. So I think we should stop here and pick up again next week. I think it's kind of vain for me to think I'm going to be able to do two things in one. So I kept saying that we would look at the 144,000. It's hopeless. Once we start touching on the prophecy, there's too much there for us to finish one thing in two things in one evening. So I'm just putting off the 144,000 study again this evening. We won't touch it. Any short answer question that anybody has, I'm willing to just look at it quickly.
Yes,
But if,
yes, brother David.
yes,
I was here all this time trying to find a verse, but I forgot which verse it is when it talk about when the church and the state join together. So I'm thinking that the beast is gonna be both the United States and the Roman Catholic Church joining together, which the Roman Catholic Church would be the church and America would be the state, and both of them joining together. And
okay.
Yeah.
If you can find a verse, I will look at it, because you'd have
Okay.
to come to this conclusion. You would have to find a verse, because I've never seen it in the Bible. What I
Okay.
see in the Bible is that the church is represented by the woman that is riding the beast. She's riding the beast in Revelation 17, but she is not connected to the beast. It's just that they are friends. And as I pointed out at the beginning, the Bible says that the beast through the 10 horns will hate the woman, eat her flesh, make her naked, and burn her with fire. So they are not united as one.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know that people say this, but just like what you said, they look for the verse and they can't find the verse because it's not there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So is there any other question before I stop the recording? All right, I'm going to stop the recording and then we're going to close off with a prayer, and then, as usual,